becomes a deeper and fuller story as Carlo's daily life unfolds in a way that shows both the beauty and the hardship he lived with. In his small fishing village, mornings always began before sunrise. The sky was still dark when roosters crowed, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore filled the air. Carlo, thin and always barefoot, would step outside their wooden hut and feel the cold soil under his feet. His father would already be by the water, repairing boats or preparing nets, and his mother would be lighting a tiny stove to cook rice for the day. Money was always short. They didn't talk about it much because they were used to surviving with almost nothing. But even in the middle of struggle, Carlo had something no one could take from him: his voice. He sang while helping his father mend nets. He sang while carrying buckets of water. He sang while walking the long road to school, the rough stones cutting into his feet but never dimming his spirit. When he sang, he felt like everything around him transformed into a place filled with hope. At school, he sat in the back because he never had the proper books or supplies, but his teachers always noticed one thing: he was gifted. His voice echoed through the hallways whenever he joined morning flag ceremonies or tiny school programs. One afternoon, while he was singing softly to himself after class, his teacher overheard him. She was stunned by the purity of his tone and the emotion in his voice. With an old cell phone whose screen was scratched and blurry, she recorded him singing one short song. Carlo didn't think much of it. He was shy, and he didn't like cameras. But she insisted the world needed to hear him. She uploaded the video online without telling him, hoping that maybe someone out there would recognize the talent hidden in this simple barefoot boy. Days passed, and Carlo continued his routine. But one morning, the teacher rushed to him, breathless and excited. The video she posted had gone viral. Thousands of people were sharing it, people from countries Carlo didn't even know how to pronounce. Some were commenting that his voice felt like a gift from heaven, while others were shocked by the fact he had no shoes. The village buzzed with excitement. People stopped him in the streets, telling him he was special. His parents were overwhelmed, unsure what this sudden attention meant. But then came the message that changed everything. A talent scout connected with America's Got Talent wrote to his teacher. They wanted to invite Carlo to audition in the United States. Carlo couldn't believe it. The teacher cried. His mother covered her face with her hands. His father hugged him so tightly he could barely breathe. In that moment, Carlo realized something incredible: the world was opening a door he never imagined existed. Begins with Carlo stepping onto American soil for the first time. The airport lights were bright, the noise was loud, and everything moved faster than anything he had ever seen. He clutched his small bag, which held a pair of borrowed clothes, a simple toothbrush, and the rosary his mother gave him. His sandals were thin, worn from years of walking on rough village roads. The AGT staff held a sign with his name on it, smiling warmly as they welcomed him. Their kindness comforted him, but he felt like he had stepped into a different universe. The car ride to the hotel felt unreal. Tall buildings, smooth highways, and endless lights filled his eyes. In the elevator, he experienced his first moment of awe. The lift moved silently, rising higher and higher. He had never been in anything like it. Inside the hotel room, he gently touched everything: the soft pillows, the warm lights, the clean bathroom floor. It felt like a dream. He tried calling his parents, but the time difference confused him. Eventually, he reached them, and when they answered, his mother cried from hearing his voice so far away. The next morning, rehearsals began. Other contestants were confident, stylish, and loud. Carlo stayed quiet, keeping his hands in his pockets. When producers asked him about his background, he explained, without drama, that he never owned real shoes. The room fell silent. People stared at him with admiration and sadness, realizing how far he had come just to stand there. As he practiced backstage, he felt fear and excitement mixing inside him. He prayed silently, gripping the rosary. This wasn't just an audition. It was the beginning of a new chapter for him and his family. Episode 3 becomes a powerful and emotional turning point in Carlo's journey, beginning the moment his name echoes through the AGT auditorium. Backstage, he felt the vibration of the audience's cheers through the floor. His palms were sweaty, and his heart pounded so loudly he could hear it in his ears. A stage assistant bent down to fix his mic, noticing the oversized sandals on his feet. She smiled softly, sensing his nerves, and whispered, "You're going to do great out there." Carlo nodded shyly. Then the curtain opened, and the bright lights hit him like a wave of heat. He walked toward the center of the massive stage, each step heavy with uncertainty, his sandals making a gentle slapping sound that drew the judge's eyes downward. Simon leaned forward, curious. Sophia tilted her head with a gentle smile, and Heidi gave him an encouraging nod. Even the crowd murmured among themselves, drawn by his humble appearance. Simon asked him to introduce himself. His voice trembled as he said he was from a small fishing village in the Philippines. When Simon noticed the lack of shoes and asked about it, Carlo hesitated for a moment, embarrassed. Then he simply said, "I never had any." The silence in the room was instant and overwhelming. The audience softened, the judges' expressions melted into empathy, and Carlo felt the weight of their attention settle on him like a blanket. When the music finally began, all the fear slipped away. His eyes closed, and he let his voice guide him. The first note floated into the air with a purity no one expected. It was clean, raw, and filled with emotion. The audience was stunned, the kind of silence that spoke louder than noise. As he continued singing, his voice grew stronger, lifted by years of singing to the sea, to the stars, to the wind in his village. He didn't just perform the song, he lived it. The lyrics carried every struggle, every night he walked barefoot, every sacrifice his parents made. Halfway through the song, people in the audience were already wiping tears from their eyes. Sophia put a hand over her heart, Heidi stood slowly, mesmerized, and Simon's face changed into something rarely seen, a genuine smile of admiration. When he reached the final note, the entire auditorium exploded into applause. People jumped to their feet in standing ovation. Carlo opened his eyes and saw thousands of strangers cheering for him. He covered his mouth in shock, unable to process what he was witnessing. Then, without hesitation, Heidi pressed the golden buzzer. The room erupted again as bright gold confetti rained down. Carlo froze. His legs felt weak. Tears streamed down his face as he looked up at the falling glitter. In that moment, everything he had endured, the hunger, the long barefoot walks, the doubt, felt like it led to this beautiful explosion of belief. Producers rushed in, hugging him as he cried into his hands. For the first time, he felt truly seen. Begins after the viral storm caused by the golden buzzer. Overnight, Carlo's entire world turned upside down. His audition clip spread across social media faster than he could understand. People from different countries called him an inspiration, a miracle, a reminder that talent comes from the most unexpected places. But fame, even positive fame, felt strange and overwhelming. He woke up in his hotel room to hundreds of notifications he didn't know how to respond to. Producers sat with him to guide him, helping him understand interviews, TV invitations, and media requests. They reassured him that he didn't need to pretend to be someone else, his authenticity was what the world loved. As semi-final rehearsals approached, things became more intense. Professional vocal coaches corrected his breathing and posture, pushing him to grow beyond his comfort zone. Choreographers encouraged him to move with more confidence. The stage crew discussed lighting and camera angles while he listened quietly, trying to take everything in. Though he felt grateful, he also felt pressure. Sometimes, late at night, he called his mother and confessed how nervous he was. She told him, "Anik, remember how you sang at the shore? Just sing like that. Sing from the heart." Her voice grounded him. One afternoon, a sponsor arrived with a special gift, Carlo's first pair of real shoes. Not borrowed, not secondhand, brand new. When he opened the box, he stared at them for a long time, unsure if he should touch them. When he finally slipped his feet inside, he felt something he couldn't explain, like a piece of dignity he had never been allowed to have. Tears filled his eyes as he whispered, "I never had this before." Everyone in the room felt the impact of that moment. As the days moved forward, Carlo slowly adjusted to this new life. He learned how to speak more confidently during interviews, how to use the big rehearsal stage without fear, and how to trust himself. But at his core, he stayed humble, quiet, and sincere. Every night, he prayed that he would make his family proud, not through fame, but through music that truly touched people. And with the semi-finals approaching, he knew the journey was only beginning. Carlo stepped onto the semi-final stage wearing the first pair of real shoes he had ever owned, and it was as if those shoes carried not just his feet, but his entire journey. The lights were brighter, the audience louder, and the cameras multiplied around him, capturing every movement, every breath. His heart raced, but instead of fear, he felt a quiet determination. He thought about his village, about walking barefoot on jagged paths, about nights spent singing under dim candlelight. He thought about his mother, who always told him to sing from his heart, and his father, who taught him the value of hard work. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, gripping the microphone like a lifeline, and the music began. From the very first note, his voice held a power that seemed bigger than the stage itself. It was clear, strong, and yet tender, carrying every ounce of emotion he had accumulated over the years. He closed his eyes and let the melody flow, imagining the ocean waves back home, imagining the faces of the people who had believed in him from the start. The audience fell into a hush, hanging on every phrase, every pitch, every nuance of his performance. Carlo's singing was more than technique, it was storytelling. Each note was colored with gratitude, with hope, with the struggles he had overcome. His performance was intimate yet grand, like a conversation with the whole world. As he hit the high notes, some audience members gasped. As he softened his voice in the quiet parts, others leaned in, silent in reverence. The judges watched, riveted. Simon's usual tough expression softened into admiration, Sophia's eyes shimmered with tears, and Heidi, always animated, seemed to hold her breath as she took in the performance. When Carlo reached the final note, a silence enveloped the theater for a heartbeat, and then the crowd erupted into thunderous applause, standing and cheering. Backstage, fellow contestants whispered to each other about how inspired they felt, amazed that someone so humble could command the stage in such a way. Carlo walked off stage, breathing hard, overwhelmed but grateful, knowing that regardless of the result, he had shared something authentic, something powerful, something that represented all of him. The finale arrived weeks later, and the stakes had never felt higher. Carlo had grown into the stage now. He moved with confidence, holding himself differently, but his heart was still that of the barefoot boy who dreamed beyond the shores of his village. As he waited backstage, the noise of the cheering crowd seemed distant. He focused